Your book that you co-authored here with Aaron Klein called Impeachable Offenses, I mentioned the word provocative with the title. Uh, that's a extremely serious charge. You know this already, but to make against any president that he has done things worthy of impeachment. Is this just something that Republicans throw out against Democrats and Democrats throw out against Republicans?
Well, no, it's interesting that you should ask that question because this the call to impeach Obama, actually one of the loudest calls to impeach Obama, came in March of 2011 from far-left Democratic then Representative Dennis Kucinich, who called for impeachment because Obama took us into Libya without getting congressional approval. We have several other examples of people on the left calling for impeachment, because Kucinich is calling again regarding Syria, that if Obama should go into Syria, that he should be impeached. But there's a lot of folks on the left. Actually, when we did the research for this book to find out when and who had been calling for impeachment, what we found out is they were all on the left.
Really?
The early folks were not on the right. David Swanson, maybe you remember him from the Impeach Bush movement. David Swanson is one of those folks that's affiliated, like with Code Pink and a lot of the far left progressive groups. And in March of 2011, he said that Obama was now worse than Bush. And then in February of 2012, he wrote an article. He had written originally about Bush 35 articles of impeachment. Well, in February of 2012, a year and a half ago, he said Obama then qualified for 27 of those. So, it's not just the right calling out the left. The noise began with the left.
Do you think that, I want to get into some of these things that you recount in your book, which are very serious issues, or you wouldn't have used the word impeachable on the front of your book. But just in a general, and I guess this is a loaded question, but at the same time, I have people tell me this, and I don't really know what to make of it. They'll say, Obama is a puppet for such and such, or is just a mouthpiece for this movement or that movement, or he's controlled by such and such. Do you believe that kind of stuff? Well, and if so, who's the man behind the curtain?
Well, it's possible. George Soros is the person that most people point their finger to. But Soros is just one among a number of global financiers and players. But this all comes down to one simple sentence. And this would apply to any president, but in particular to Barack Obama. And two very noted people mentioned this over the summer, George Will and Charles Krauthammer. And I don't know whether they had a mind meld at the time, but they both said the same thing almost within a day or so of each other. No president has the executive authority to rewrite the Constitution or laws that were dutifully passed by Congress. And Barack Obama, since he put his hand up and took the oath of office, has probably used just about every means possible to do end runs around Congress and the Constitution and the American people. It's that simple. And then we get into the details. We have the big picture details, and we have the more.
Yeah. No, you're right.
The tinier details, like Obamacare. Yes, Obamacare overall is unconstitutional, and then when you start picking it apart, and then you have details within details. I mean, this is one of the biggest messes that we could probably ever see our country in, and nobody could have imagined it.
We're talking to Brenda Elliott. She's the co-author with Aaron Klein of a book called Impeachable Offenses, The Case for Removing Barack Obama from Office, a WND book. How can people get a copy of this? book?
Oh, absolutely. WND Books, the Superstore, Amazon.com, any other online booksellers. I do know for a fact it's in the stores in Barnes and Noble. I actually saw it there, although it was hidden back in the very furthest corner of the store under current events.
You know, you mentioned Obamacare, and there's so much wrong with Obamacare. I was just talking to a gentleman the other day who attended a meeting, talking to three gentlemen who attended a meeting who were trying to brief companies and organizations on the impact of Obamacare to get ready for. And they just said, man, this is just going to be a nightmare. Mm-hmm. But I want to ask you something specifically to give a example, as you mentioned, about what we're talking about here, so people won't think, oh, you're just conservative, you don't like liberals, so therefore you're hating on Obama, just with no good reason. No, what we're talking about here, folks, is law and order. What we're talking about here is we have a constitution that our presidents, all of them, are sworn to uphold and obey and enforce. And that we are a nation of laws based on the Constitution. Now, we gave this example a few weeks ago, and Brenda, I'd like you to comment on it. Okay, I'll try not to be too long-winded with this. The Congress passed Obamacare when the Democrats controlled the House and the Senate, and they passed it totally along party lines. It was basically, the rules were sort of changed to get it through. It was ramrodded, okay? Ramrodded in, President Obama signed it into law. It was official. I mean, it was legal. So I'm not saying it wasn't those things, but it was passed into law. Now, so you have a law, Obamacare, Affordable Health Care Act, I think is what it's officially called. Now, we move along. There are dates assigned to implementation of certain aspects of Obamacare. Well, what Obama and his team realized was that they couldn't do this law in time. It was going to be a train wreck, to borrow from one senator. And so he arbitrarily and unconstitutionally, in my view, changed the date of implementation. He went in and got white ink on a law that's been passed and changed the date on it. Doesn't matter whether it's for good or bad. That's not the point. The point is the president does not have that kind of authority to do that. If he's going to change a date for that's a law supposed to take place, he has to go back to Congress and get them to amend the law. That's what we're saying. That's just one example of what we're talking about here. What if he had said, I want to push up the date of implementation, give me the white ink? How do you think that would have, I think people would have reacted much more negatively. But Brenda, am I right here on this case in point, or have I got it wrong?
Oh, no, you've got it absolutely right. I mean, that's the tip. That's a little minor detail among many other details.
I know. But still, it's an example. It's a clear example of what we're usurping the Constitution. That's what we're talking about.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it goes to the waivers, picking and choosing, penalize. I mean, this has had ramifications that go way beyond the law.
Brenda, if nobody calls him on this kind of thing, and I didn't hear but maybe one or two Republicans say a word about what I just talked about, he gets away with it, and the rules are changed, whatever rules are left, and so I don't understand why don't the Republicans make more of this kind of thing?
Well, that's a very, 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 very good question. One of the issues that comes up, that has come up in all of the interviews, and this is my third week of interviews. One of the questions that comes up is, what do we do about it? Are we doomed? Well, not really. We have a midterm election coming up in just a hair over a year. The conservatives, now I'm not saying Republicans and Democrats, I'm saying conservatives. The conservatives have a good opportunity to increase their numbers in the House.
Yeah, the rhinos got to go.
Absolutely. They're progressives. or
Yeah.
they're neoliberals or neocons or whatever they want to call themselves.
They're Republican. I'll use Rhino for those who are new to that expression. Republicans in name only. There's a certain elite group of Republicans that are no better hardly than the Democrats, and not every Democrat's bad, but most of them are liberal, and liberals are bad. I'm just going,
Well, and then
so
we have the situation where the conservatives could flip the Senate. And the way things are going, if they keep doing some of the stupid stuff that they've been doing, the Senate could definitely flip. We have a good example of right now.
we need some more Ted Cruzes. That's what we need. We need some more Ted Cruzes up there.
Well, we need something to happen nationally of like what happened in Colorado yesterday. Two Democrat pro-gun control nuts were subject to recall, and now there are two Republicans sitting in their place. We need a national recall. It's called the midterm election. And we need some people with some guts who are willing to go out there and call it what it is and say what is wrong and that we need a change and why the Rhino and the liberals, why they need to go. Now, if we don't get people with enough courage, and it is going to take courage because what the Democrats do is character assassination. That is their tool. That's Saul Alinsky on steroids. That's what they do to people.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's doable.
What about, I want to talk to, you got chapter 7, okay, in the book, Impeachable Offenses. And, these things, these scandalous type things related to President Obama, especially the last couple of years, have come so, to borrow a bad pun, fast and furious, that it's kind of like Clinton's affairs. You forget about number 3 because there's number 6 already. you know what I'm saying? It's just like it gets dizzying, and you forget all these things that have been done. And you got let's go back to the NSA and the reporters that were the Associated Press reporters that were
spied on,
and the press they made a little bit of that for a little while. But my word, if President Bush had done something like that, they would have been calling for his impeachment. So we talk about your chapter 7, where you is titled "Big Brother, Obama's Surveillance Regime."
Well, it's interesting. I don't want to say funny because it's not funny, but we finished our manuscript in May because you have to go to press. The publisher says no more updating, no more changing things. And the amount of information that has come out since May of the things that the NSA has been doing and the IRS has been doing that they have been involved with were things that we talked about. Some things we talked about in our book a year ago, "Fool Me Twice." Now we embellished on that and dug deeper into what some of these programs were. And what we said was America has been subjected to a vacuum cleaner surveillance operation. Everything, excuse me, from drones capable of doing facial recognition on the ground to right down to knowing what brand of sneakers you're wearing. I mean, all of the capabilities that this government has done. This comes under the heading of, well, just because we can do it, should we be doing it? And almost daily now, we're finding out more and more things that have happened. For example, in 2008, the FISA court said that the NSA should not be surveilling for all the phone calls and emails. Barack Obama goes into the FISA court in 2011 and says, "Oh, no, I need that right back. I need to be able to go out there and surveil anybody I want to." The FISA court goes, "Okay."
What's the FISA court?
Oh, that's the surveillance court. The FISA court is the authority that the NSA or DOJ or other people have to go to get authority, supposed to be
Like
on
going
a
to
one-on-one
a judge,
individual basis.
like going to a judge for a subpoena.
Exactly. It is supposed to be on a one-by-one individual need basis. But what has happened is that it is blanket surveillance. Instead of surveilling one person's phone records or email records, it's everybody's.
You know, Brenda, what is most ironic about all of this is President Obama is of a he would be in complete ideological alignment with the ACLU. I mean, that's where he comes from. That's the kind of folks he hangs out with, ACLU types. That's the kind of people he appoints to the Supreme Court and other federal judgeships.
Let me just interrupt here.
Okay.
As we write in the book, the ACLU has been rabid at going after him for all of these
so we need to
to
commend them for being consistent. I don't like much of anything the ACLU does, but you are telling me that they've been publicly critical. But that's one angle. The other angle is why you have a progressive secular liberal like Obama doing things that the ACLU's ticked off about and publicly criticizing him for. Why would he be doing that kind of stuff?
Well, the left is the left, as well as being ticked off about Syria and Libya. The left is very. They were extremely vocal during the Bush years when Bush started doing the domestic surveillance and all of that.
Right, I remember that.
The left is consistent in being against the surveillance state.
Some of them are. Some of them are. I wouldn't say all of them are. Some of them are silent because they have their guy in office, and so they're not as critical of him as they were of Bush, for instance. That's my opinion, Brenda. Didn't mean to interrupt you or disagree with you.
No, that's okay. But they have been, I documented back from 2003 on, I documented all of the information about the FISA court, about the domestic surveillance, all of the breaches, the things that we're doing. And Barack Obama has taken that bedrock, that groundwork, and put it on steroids.
Well,
I mean, he has just run with it.
I do think that he's been weakened the last year by a lot of this and may not be able to run roughshod over the Constitution like he has done heretofore, but we will see. And Brenda, but thank you for spotlighting this. We thank you so much for your time today. Wish you the best with your book.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Brenda Elliott. Brenda Elliott, our guest. John Riley, Tim Wildman.